Globalna unijnych firm i eksport w warunkach podwyższonego ryzyka, jak tym biznesowo zarządzać, to jest temat tego naszego kolejnego panelu, naszego kolejnego spotkania. Dziękuję, że Państwo w tak zdyscyplinowany sposób wrócili. Wiem, że te przerwy są zawsze okazją nie tylko do napicia się kawy, ale przede wszystkim do arcyciekawych rozmów kuluarowych, na które jeszcze będzie dzisiaj czas. Zapraszam pana Juranda Dropa, podsekretarza stanu w Ministerstwie Finansów, o to, by wprowadził tę debatę. Będzie mowa o instrumentach wspierających bezpieczną wymianę handlową także oraz ekspansję zagraniczną polskich przedsiębiorstw i wtedy będzie przed Państwem stawał Piotr Maciaszek, dyrektor Departamentu Ubezpieczeń i Współpracy Międzynarodowej z KUKA S.A. i będzie też wystąpienie Marka Ullmana, koordynatora do spraw inwestycji Krajowego Punktu Kontaktowego do spraw instrumentów finansowych programów Unii Europejskiej o instrumentach finansowych właśnie. Ale jako pierwszego zapraszam podsekretarza stanu w Ministerstwie Finansów, którego nie widzę i rozumiem, że jest to wystąpienie, Arku, tak? Jest to wystąpienie nagrane. Przepraszam Państwa bardzo, a zatem bardzo proszę o odtworzenie tego nagrania.
Szanowni Państwo, jest mi niezmiernie miło, że mogę dziś otworzyć blok konferencji poświęcony eksportowi w warunkach podwyższonego ryzyka. Chciałbym więc na początek podziękować organizatorom, Związkowi Banków Polskich, Radzie do Spraw Mikro, Małych i Średnich Przedsiębiorców oraz Krajowemu Punktowi Kontaktowemu do spraw instrumentów finansowych Unii Europejskiej za stworzenie przestrzeni do merytorycznej rozmowy o tym, jak
substantial discussions about how to effectively support Polish entrepreneurs or international markets in a reality of high political tensions and therefore more instability of raw material price, foreign currency risks, regulatory changes. Professional risk management become even more important in such conditions. Therefore, it is so important that the public financial sector should support Polish companies by organizing tools for them that enable them to safely enter new markets and develop exports. So, as an introduction to the discussion, I'd like to mention some government instruments that play an important role in mitigating export risks. First, insurance offered by KUKA and guaranteed by the state treasury. KUKA, as the institution specializing in managing export risk, offers products that help entrepreneurs protect themselves from the risk of insolvency of foreign contractors. They enable to protect transactions made on difficult or unstable markets. That is, the markets on which private insurers are not really able to give protection. So now involvement of KUKA in insurance guaranteed by state accounts for about 27 billion Polish zlotys. For example, as for Ukraine, it is 1,300 million Polish zlotys. In the budget bill for 2025, we have secured such insurance even to 55 billion Polish zlotys. So there is still a lot of room for further supporting Polish exporters with such insurance. The second pillar of support is a government program, financial support for exports implemented by BGK. The program is to finance Polish exports of services and goods, especially there where private financing would be too costly or impossible. BGK gives export financing, refinancing commercial banks, and offers guarantees in order for the Polish companies to compete on even level playing field with other international competitors that use their government support. Within the last years, BGK financed over 3,000 export transactions valued at a value of 5.5 billion Polish zlotys. The most recent instrument is the financial instrument of development cooperation, FEVER, in short. Thanks to the amendment to the Act on Development Cooperation, BGK would be able to effect development cooperation outside EU. That is in third countries. Polish entrepreneurs investing in developing countries located outside the EU could use guarantees for investment credits, grants, or instruments of a technical assistance nature. So direct funds from BGK would be allocated to entities from those countries that are eligible for development aid. These might be also companies controlled by Polish enterprises. Indirectly, the beneficiaries would be Polish subcontractors and suppliers who would implement development-oriented projects abroad in their role of investors or exporters. According to the law, by 2030, we could use almost 1.5 billion Polish zlotys, because in the framework of the instrument, foreign funds could be collected, that is those from the European Commission, international financial institutions, development agencies of third countries, and other entities that would enable to give support of up to 10 billion. So in this context, we should mention the planned use of FEVER in Ukraine. The EU instrument for Ukraine recently accepted the first two applications from BGK, thanks to which two instruments would be soon created. The first is the investment credit for commercial companies' projects in Ukraine, given by BGK for about 199 million euros. The credits would be allocated for investment in the energy sector, transport and logistics, and in the construction sector. In the framework of this instrument, grants are also envisaged from the EU for technical assistance up to almost 9 million euros, and interest rate subsidies from FEVER up to 23 million euros. The second, we have a portfolio guarantee line securing credit portfolios given by Ukrainian banks to the investments of the local governments and municipal companies for 100 million euros. In the framework of this instrument, there are grants envisaged from EU funds. In total, it's about 50 million euros and 6 million, including 6 million euros for technical assistance, and grants from FEVER up to 20 million euros. Although the instruments prepared by BGK are not just limited to Polish entities, the priority would be to create such solutions that would meet the needs of Polish companies, that is exports of goods and services, and investors interested in being present in Ukraine. Finally, I'd like to finish with a promise and a request. As Ministry, we promise to continue the dialogue with enterprises and the financial sector so that we could improve the available tools. Therefore, I encourage you to give observations, comments, ideas in this respect. The smaller companies should be more interested, that's my request to you, in available support instruments. In recent years, BGK, in cooperation with KUKA, has supported many export contracts and various measures, and we see that every year the interest among companies is growing. So please take this opportunity for your expansion abroad with your exports. I wish you an interesting debate. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jurand Drop, Under Secretary of State in the Ministry of Finance. This has been an important speech, and the items the Minister have been discussed by us so far, so that small enterprises should apply for support, should use the instruments that are available, and the medium-sized enterprises could at any time count on support from various instruments and organizations, including those operating at the level of the Polish government. So now instruments supporting safe trade and foreign expansion will be discussed by Piotr Maciaszek, Director of Insurance and International Cooperation Department, KUKE SA. The floor is yours. Good afternoon. I'm happy to welcome you on this nice day. Right. Unfortunately, it's still raining and it's going to rain for the following week. But now let's talk what is important from the viewpoint of foreign expansion and trade, and from what MSMEs and financing banks should be interested in, so that business should develop. The minister has just made an introductory speech. Well, and I've been thinking, what can I add? Well, there were many figures given by the minister, but now I will show you what KUKE does. So, KUKE is a company and stakeholders company, and our stakeholders the BGK, and together with the BGK we've been supporting exports thanks to the government programs. We were established in 1991, so we've been operating for 34 years. Over 200 people work for KUKE. We are an insurance company which is unique on the Polish market. All right, so as you can see on this slide, we combine two types of activity. And today I will focus more on the activity on the right-hand side, that is the agency supporting exports. Because if we are to discuss trade, investments, support of expansion, that's the activities that have been mentioned by the ministry. So activity with the guarantee of the state treasury is the core business of ours, but we also insure debts, and we do issue contract guarantees on our market as other insurance companies operating in Poland. We are, of course, a commercial player in this respect, so we have exactly the same products. We based on the special law on insurance and assurance activity. And what makes us stand out is the thing on the right-hand side, that is agency export support agency. And we can do it, yes, because 2 days ago we got a Global Trade Review Award for the best export credit agency this year, and 2 years ago we were ranked as the second, and so that distinction shows that the products that are available, and I will show them in a moment. I will not discuss them all because we have limited time, but I think that in the panel that will be started later on, but after this introduction, given by Minister and also Marek, who will discuss after me some things about availability of banking instruments, then panelists would discuss how specific instruments for credit support as offered by KUKE could be used. All right, so 3 pillars. The first is which is important. The first one important from the viewpoint of things that are needed, that investment is needed, company must develop, and we have problems related to high energy costs, but not only that. And chief economist of PKO BP, Sarah Mr. Bujak said that there's high exchange rate of Polish zloty. We have high now labor costs as well. We have no more this advantage. Higher cost of labor are higher than in Portugal and Greece. So this competitive advantage is no more with us. So we want to have other support instruments, and we want to support our entrepreneurs so that they could increase their investment needs in Poland and abroad. And when the investment needs are fulfilled, they will be financed, and we will ensure such financing. And then we go to the second pillar, safe trade, because if we make something, we should sell it in a reasonable way, and we should have some kind of protection for that. And we have such offers, so we do have such securitization in this line, or with in this line, and the line with state guarantees on all world markets, where the entrepreneurs can sell their products. They can always have the security for the merchant credit that they would provide to their contractors. And the third pillar of key importance is here on the slide. Because so far we've heard that we should use new technologies. We should not only buy and sell things, we should develop technologies and increase the competitiveness of our economy by the fact that it's being more modernized, and thanks to the potential coming from abroad, we could become really even the 18th or higher ranked economy, not only the 20th. So that is attracting foreign investors to Poland. That's the third one, and that we are trying to do it. So the system for entrepreneur support now, I would not discuss all the elements shown on the slide, because I'd like to tell you more about products, and they will be shown on the last slide. So that system of support was created for everybody, for the SMEs and for large companies. All of them would sign product solutions that would support their development. It's also good for banks, and we most often cooperate with the banking sector, because as KUKE we don't lend funds, we provide security guarantees for the loans given by banks. And we cooperated during the pandemic, and as regards climate transformation for our country, our offer was warmly welcomed. So the last transaction, Energa with Equinor, the biggest project finance Polish energy, 27 billion Polish zlotys financing for the risk period of 26 years, was secured with our guarantees, and 16 banks were beneficiaries that used that security, that is repayment of a long-term credit facility that was provided to the investor to build offshore wind farms, windmills. So the second agency that supported it, because of the technologies that were brought from abroad, it was German Olehem that supported part of that financing, because contractors and technologies came from Germany, because we discuss offshore. The major player are Danes, but they were not participating in the project. These were German companies. Now, specific solutions that we have. And this slide, they are presented, and I'd like to say some most important things from the entrepreneurs. That is working capital financing and investment financing. So liquidity needs. Yesterday, during the strategic debate, we heard, and there was also an appeal to Madam President Postowa to resume liquidity programs, and we do have such a solution. We can have with our guarantee to ensure liquidity and provide working capital, and the banks are given guarantees at the level of 86%, and the capital, the principal amount is lower, because you see we have guarantees, because we are a credit support agency. So that means that the bank does not have to have provisions for the funds lent to our credits, and we do secure such credit lines. Of course, working capital could be different. It doesn't have to be bank credit. It could be reverse factoring. We have our company, Kuke Finance, which is a subsidiary and specialized in factoring. And this week, I've seen that our colleagues from Kuke Finance were awarded due to innovative combination of reverse factoring with our guarantees. Well, it's not only banks that are important for us, but there are other institutions that provide working capital. They can use our guarantees as well. The second is financing in long-term investment, CapEx, financing on the domestic market. We can secure it with our guarantees, but when you go abroad, you can make investments in Ukraine, for example, or on other markets, or you can take over some enterprises. Then we can secure such financing, such foreign investment, and we do provide some cover against some political risks. There are good examples like the large-scale war Ukraine started by Russia. The two countries that were given sanctions, that is Russia and Belarus. We had one representative on the Belarusian market that was affected by this political risk. It is stock exchange. So the BGK finance, we did provide it with some guarantees. It was Cocodrilo company. So if you look at this entrepreneur now, he could confirm that security provided by Cook fully worked. Damages were paid because of this political risk and force majeure. So we pay then damages, and the entrepreneur does not feel the loss that would be painful if he hadn't used such security. Of course, we are running out of time. I'd just like to say that as regards reconstruction of Ukraine, at the very top you see medium and long-term insurance. So when investment is made there by Polish entrepreneurs, not like investors, but general contractors, or Polish entrepreneurs would be part of supply chains and would provide key components for investment projects aimed at reconstructing Ukraine. We would secure such financing. Two good examples that today are quite relevant despite the war. There were two commercial centers, one in Kiev, the other in Lviv, where they were financed by BGK in that form, and they were secured against the risk of repayment and against some trading events. The war has been ongoing now for 3 years, but commercial centers do operate. Trade centers operate, and financing is repaid, so we can do such financing and secure such financing. And please do remember that when you implement contracts and you need the guarantee for good performance, we do have those in the offer. And later, after the debate, I'll be available during the break. If you have any questions, please ask me. I'm available on the LinkedIn. Please ask me any questions online, so I will try to answer all your questions. Thank you so much.
Bardzo dziękuję.
Thank you, Director, for respecting the time frame of our debate. And thank you for this dynamic, interesting presentation. Now I would like to invite Marek Ullman, Investment Coordinator from the National Contact Point for Financial Instruments of the European Union programs. As you may know, it is going to be a presentation about financial instruments. So thank you very much. Thank you. This is really motivating. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will present you finance instruments concerning EU programs which are centrally managed. So as we know, we are running out of time, so let me be brief and present the most important information. We have also an information stand just in front of this room, so please come see us there if you need more details. Before I move to financial instruments, let me make a short introduction about our center. What is the contact point and why there is such an institution at all? It's a response to some needs on the market, because within the centrally managed program there are financial instruments which are dedicated. Poland, as an EU member state, didn't really use those instruments in the past. Their use by Poland was at the level of 0. So that's why we had this initiative of setting up this, let's say, public-private partnership, which is the contact point. And its aim was to gather all the information about available financial instruments in a centrally managed program. So the purpose was to create a one-stop shop. As we can see, it's been functioning for 18 years, and it's supporting the use of financial instruments. We inform individuals and entrepreneurs about this large offer. We've been working with the banks, with the whole financial market, with leasing companies, with funds, with the venture capital, private debt, private equity. So our aim is to increase the absorption of those funds. For all those years of our functioning, we've managed to increase this absorption, and now we are not anymore ranked as the last ones, but we are ranked as 5th or 6th in the whole EU when it comes to absorbing instruments in a centrally managed program. Our services are available all over Poland, are free of charge, and are financed from state budget through the Polish Agency of Industry Development. So as you can see, this is the whole ecosystem. So all the institutions of the EU distribute those financial instruments. So there is this group of European Investment Bank, the European Bank of Development and Reconstruction and Development, the BGK, and on our side, who is responsible for the supervision of the implementation of those instruments in a centrally managed program? It's the Ministry of Regional Funds and the Ministry of Development and Technology. How do they work? Well, the European Commission, through its agencies, distributes all kinds of instruments, risk-sharing, namely risk-sharing instruments that are secure, and those are guarantees against the risk of the lack of repayment of some loan. This is one group of instruments. And the second group are instruments dedicated to equity funds, and those are this kind of investments. And then they invest in some target companies which have the proper profile and business model, so they grow fast, for example, they have unique technologies, and so on. So this investment and this financing is dedicated especially to entities that have a higher risk profile when compared to standard enterprises. So what are the advantages regarding the use of those instruments? When it comes to entrepreneurs, well, it's bigger availability. The European Commission, when making those instruments available, well, this was preceded by in-depth analysis, and it turned out that it's not only the price that plays a role, but there are some financial or investment gaps. And we wanted this availability to be higher on the market, and that's why the Commission launched this kind of instruments. When it comes to the advantages for the customers, this is this alternative security, which is a portfolio guarantee. There are no other collaterals which are required. For example, when you come to a financial institution, usually you ask for a financing with the portfolio guarantee, and then such a financial institution does not require any other guarantee. There may be other advantages. For example, own contribution is lower, margin is lower, repayment period is longer, and no burden related to public aid. When it comes to capital instruments, it's dedicated to entities which have a high risk profile, which is not accepted by other entities on the market, scaled and innovative solutions, and that could have a big return on investment, but that have high risk potential. So when it comes to this kind of financing, it's flexible, and it does not require additional guarantee. Investors invest in such entities because they want to get a quite high return on investment, but they also take into account a high level of risk. Well, now moving on to the program itself. The InvestEU program is a response because it's the biggest investment program in the EU. Yesterday, Director Villak already talked about this program, and this is a program which is implemented by the European Investment Bank. A group is there, and 75% of guarantees are from the European Union, but we are also executive partners of this instrument. And those are other banks. There are 17 such banks, executive partners. In our region, we have additionally also the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development and the Bank of the Development of Europe and BGK. So the three pillars, the fund InvestEU, the Center of Investment Advice. So I will not dwell on that because we talked about it yesterday. So the program itself has three main elements: sustainable infrastructure, digitalization, and SMEs. This is this large sectorial window, social investment and capacities. So here on this slide, it's presented in a concise way. So the guarantee from the EU is given to executive partners. This guarantee is at the level of 26 billion euros, which is also extended by contributions. And thanks to this guarantee, executive partners can give further guarantees to financial institutions that provide financing, which is an equity or some debt, a credit or a leasing or an equity investment to the final users. If there is a need for bigger amounts, executive partners invest directly. Sometimes those are, for example, projects at the level of 25 million euros, where the financing is provided for at the level up to 50% of capex. The Center for Investment Advice. This is also the port. We talked about it yesterday in the investment project portal. This is something that brings together promoters and investors. And here Omnibus 2, I would like to stress that we are working on deregulating within this package. Omnibus 2, it's provided for the guarantees of the budget of the EU will be increased by 4.5 billion euros. So it will increase investments. And the budget of the advisory hub, this will be increased by an additional amount of 200 million euros. So the absorption of the program is at the level of 93%, 28 billion euros. What does it look like in Poland? More than 15 billion Polish zlotys were ensured thanks to this guarantee, this for the entrepreneurs, and we estimate that more than 70,000 entrepreneurs will benefit from this program. You can see the logos of companies that are already in the system. We have more than 100 such companies. We have banks, leasing companies, and entities that have this private debt financing or equity funds. So both venture capital, private equity entities, but also impact investing, for example, this kind of financing is available. There are also venture debt funds. How is working? Within the period of its functioning, 153,000 recipients, final clients got this financing, which is a good result. And on this website, you can get all the details about the program. And now, just a couple of details, 20-30 seconds about what will happen next. The European group of the European Investment Bank launched a new Tech EU program, 70 billion euros for the next 2 years, which will mobilize 250 million additional private capital. So there will be debt capital investment and other kind of financing for startups, deep tech companies, and for research entities. New strategies, the competitiveness compass, we talked about it yesterday. So Pact for a Clean Industry, we will mobilize the financing. More than 100 billion euros will be launched for supporting clean technologies in the EU, and the new multi-annual financial framework, where there will be this competitiveness fund, which will succeed to Invest EU. So that's all from my side. I'd encourage you to visit us at our stand, please. Thank you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, first of all, announcement. So we need some message to our backstage technical team. Let's put on the chairs and let's put them on the stage, please. Chairs and tables are welcome. So, and now I would like to introduce and invite on stage the participants of the next panel. A panel that reminds you about competitiveness of EU companies in conditions of higher risk, how to manage it. The moderator is Włodzimierz Kiciński, the Vice President of the Polish Banks Association, and we agreed with the Vice President that I would invite all the panelists. First, Monika Konstant, the President of the Polish Leasing Association, is invited on stage. Then Dariusz Kucharski, General Director, HSBC Bank, member of the Board of the Polish Banks Association. Paweł Dziekoński, Vice President of the Management Board of the Fakro company. . . 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. 。. . 。 . 。. 。. 。. 。. . . 。. 。. . . 。. . . . . . . . . . . . . . No, I don't see Paweł here. If he's over there, just in front of the room, please invite him in. If not, maybe he will join us later on during this meeting. It has already happened. Piotr Jabłoński, Managing Director of the International Relations Department, Bank Gospodarstwa Krajowego, BGK. And finally, Aleksander Siemaszko, Director of the Department of Trade and International Cooperation, Ministry of Economic Development and Technology. President, if the remaining person comes here, we will invite him, of course. There is a chair for this person, of course. It's here, it's waiting for him. Let me start by reminding you, a reminder, in fact. In 1991, Polish exports was at the level of $12 billion per year. Now it's at the level of $380 billion per year. So it's 31-fold than it used to be just at the beginning after the economic transition. So 380 billion is about 50, makes up about 50% of the Polish GDP. So it's a great success. So when we wanted to get rid of the debt in our country, in our economy, we considered that we would significantly increase the GDP in our country, and it was increased by 3.4 times. And whereas the German GDP at the same time increased by 1.5 times. So we see who is the leader in European growth. Today we would like to talk about how SMEs and micro enterprises could, to a greater extent, take part and directly take part in Polish exports. So let's start this debate after this quick reminder, which is quite good. Let's start by answering this question, how our ministry, how our government sees the role of small, medium and SMEs and micro enterprises in direct exports. What's their role? We have only 5% of companies that export in Poland.
The exporters who are in fact are creating a significant part of these exports. But in addition to this supply chain, I would like to ask more precisely a question. How do you assess the share of SMEs in creating Polish exports? So how does it look in the chain, and how does it look from the perspective of authorities as regards of direct share and exports? Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your invitation. This is a very important conference, and unfortunately this is a topical subject about risks, some turbulences. But let's start with a kind of general look. President referred to positive data on internationalization of Polish economy. So on average, it can be said that Polish exports was growing within 10 years twice as high as the growth of GDP. Of course, there were some changes. There was some volatility in 2022, but exports indeed constitutes 50% of Polish GDP, which is below the regional average, because that's That's because of the large domestic market and the quite balanced model of growth. And where do we have exports here, especially the role of SMEs in exports? So, in fact, SMEs account for 95% of exporters, but they generate just 53% of the value of exports, and 5% of large exporters generate 47% of the exports value. And even several years ago, we saw in the ministry that was a challenge. We set some objectives for increasing exports, for its diversification, for the share of high-tech exports, and for increasing exporters' base. And frankly, we achieved most of these objectives except for increasing this exports base. So generally, in simplification, exports companies that are already exporting, that have already been internationalized, they've gone through the path of exporters, as we called it in our policy. They export more and more in terms of volume and value, but a certain challenge is still to increase that base of exporters for several reasons. But we have mitigated some of these challenges. But most of Polish programs to support exports, and definitely direct action of ministries and agencies, is to create the framework that will enable easier internationalization of these companies by increasing awareness, raising awareness of what exports gives, that is bigger stability, survival, being active for a long time, and combating problems. And now, which instruments of support do we have? Well, we are aware of the fact that there are various support instruments from the Polish Trade and Investment Agency, BGK, and the Brand program. People are not aware of these programs, and we are trying to address it by going beyond Warsaw, by building regional Małych offices through, of course, some promotion programs and through some events, thanks to which we could have partnerships with some regions to promote territorially balanced growth of the Poland. But most of Polish exporters are getting engaged conservatively as subcontractors with partners close to them geographically. About 86% of Polish exports are sold to the single market, plus UK, Turkey, and other countries from the economic area that are functionally connected with EU. Then it goes up to 81%. So the first steps of expansion on the European Union, unless these are, let's say, startups and ITI companies, are of key importance. Hence, the great importance of EU funds and direct support instruments integrated under national contact points, NPC. So when they get it on these companies, then they decide or not to expand abroad. And here there's the law of the trade with many instruments. Of course, we can discuss it, but our objective is first to encourage entrepreneurs to take the first step and to give them various instruments, financial or non-financial, legal, political support and know-how, and then create further incentives to expand, maybe on more difficult, non-obvious markets, further markets that offer, of course, higher rates of return. Thank you so much. So, do we have a goal of the strategy? As regards export expansion of our state? Yes. How much is it? If we are to discuss it specifically, because we very often in banks we say there's mission, vision, and there is a strategy, there is leadership, and hopefully state authorities ensure that as well. But is there a specific objective for exports that we would like to achieve as Poland? Yes, there is indeed. So all these strategic objectives are translated into parameters. It pertains to the share of Poland in global trade at the level of 2%, and we want to increase the base of exporters and to increase export of high tech, and we want to have geographical diversification because in terms of sectors it is diversified. So we don't want to be, of course, cut off from the single market, which is the most important for us, but we want to mitigate risk below 75%. Well, we achieved it thanks to Brexit, I mean, in terms of data, but we would like further growth on other markets, non-European markets. We have two-digit, for example, like in the Gulf states, on the American market, Ukrainian market, which is, of course, non-EU market yet. So here we have kind of two-digit share. So that means that the share has become more diversified. So it's 2% of exports or 2% of trade, world trade. It is the share of Poland at the level of 2% in the world trade, and that covers also services. I mean, yes, this parameter pertains now to goods, exports of goods. Services, frankly speaking, they are growing faster than products exports. So if we have IT, ICT services, business shared services, and transport services, these sectors, of course, do encounter various challenges, but for various reasons, of course, take into account what we can count or not, it's easier to support goods export rather than services export. Maybe it is easier, but what is more profitable? I think we know it because exports of services are more profitable. Thank you so much. It's a rare thing that we have a clearly formulated strategy for exports, and we should remember it, and this should be also communicated because we very often forget about it. Now, BGK, well, we mentioned it back many times. How do you see the possibilities of further strengthening the presence of micro and SMEs on foreign markets? What are you doing and which tools are you using? Well, I'd like to refer to the strength of the size and objective for Polish exports. As we have already said, the situation here is not so bad. It's really good because the recent data show that it's 50% or 54 or 58%. These are data from 23-24. So as compared to the region, it's a bit less, but we are the biggest country in this region, in Central and Eastern Europe. So, but if we compare us with kind of markets like the German, French, and Italian markets, their exports to GDP is about 45% in Germany, 35% in Italy and France. So the situation is not so bad. But let's have a look in depth on the exports. In Poland, it is carried out by companies with a share of foreign capital, which means that as a country we really made use of opportunities. That is we use foreign investment, and we became part of full supply chains, mainly in Europe, because we know that exports to EU accounts for the biggest part. So yeah, this is Polish companies can still do a lot to increase their exports, especially small companies. And one more thing, we've been discussing exports here as the form, and we also discussing internationalization of Polish companies. And let's have a look at investments of Polish companies abroad. Here the situation is different. Our foreign investments and Polish capital companies invest in capital. There are greenfield and brownfield investments of Polish companies. So that's not trade, but direct presence. Here it is from 5 to 10%, depending on the source. So if we want to compare it to Italy, France, Germany, it's much, much less. It's because the other countries have it at a level of even 40%, and there is a big potential. Let's get back to SMEs. I know that you are very knowledgeable about big figures, but okay, now let's get back to SMEs. I'd like to mention the potential for small companies as regards investment expansion. We have examples of successful takeovers on the Spanish market, where we finance the takeover in the packaging sector. This is a kind of medium-sized Polish company, very good financing, very successful financing. So that's a good example. And we should be thinking about financing not only in the large levels, but also capital financing, which is necessary for such expansion. Today, many times we've mentioned our instruments for financing exports, debt financing, etc. as BGK. So we cooperate with KUKE and many other institutions. I will, of course, discuss in a moment the cooperation with PFR Group. What is important is our instruments for capital support that we offer in the framework of PFR, and we have investment framework, Vinci, which has its own fund for SMEs related to foreign expansion, understood as not only exports expansion, but also presence on foreign markets. So this is an important element, which is an additional element. And we think we have already capital collected here by SMEs, which so far has been invested in their own companies, maybe in real estate to some extent. But now the question is how to direct this capital to foreign expansion and to new technologies and growth of companies, R&D development, AI development, the development of the market, which would be, let's say, the future. If you were to say a few words about SMEs, how do you promote them? We promote them, as I've said, in all forms of financing, related to the implementation of our government program to support financing exports. We have all instruments in it. We have capital financing that I have mentioned, and this is important, and it's a very good development way for us. Information and education activities also crucial. We are trying to show how new markets should be opened. We organize various promotional events about African or Central Asia markets. We plan it in the near future. So these are the activities that we are taking as the bank. I don't want to discuss all these instruments in detail. It's not the right forum for that. But our major task is, as a bank, we are the main institution of the whole system of support for financing such investments, and we want to cooperate with the whole PFR group, and we have for that purpose created Team Poland. We discussed it yesterday. We want to create a kind of one-stop shop where entrepreneurs can present their offer and learn more, and as a PFR group we can really provide services of internationalization for such companies, from soft services through financing through KUKA, insurance to capital financing, etc., etc. One more question. Do you prefer the client who comes from the sectors to be a client of a specific bank? And do you work based on commercial banks' data with which you cooperate, or could they approach you directly? We are the bank as regards financing, investment, and exports that provide directly services to clients. So we have all services for SMEs. It's not that high. I mean, the services for SMEs are not provided at such high level, but we can, of course, directly finance SMEs, and BGK, of course, gives guarantees to various forms of support for SMEs, which are targeted at the development of this company. So we do cooperate with the banking sector. So two paths are used in the activity of the BGK. So when we look at the banks, we see that the financing is growing. The financing of lease operations is growing even more rapidly, and they are quite commonly used. So I'd like to ask Madam President, how do you see this combination of leasing with building capacities for the presence on foreign markets in the MSMEs segment? Thank you very much for the invitation and this question, because if we discuss micro and SMEs, we would say that the leasing companies feel very well among them, because most of our clients, over 50%, are SMEs, and MSMEs account for 75% of our clients. So this is the part of the financing world that understand the needs and responds to the needs of investing, of attracting assets among SMEs. So, well, leasing companies understand them so well. But we do not differentiate companies with a view to whether they export or produce for the local market. The leasing companies are very often used by the small enterprises, because they don't need such large, let's say, history of the client to get financing. They are just owners of some specific assets. But at the same time, very often this financing turns out to be much larger, given for a longer period of financing, that is more interesting from the viewpoint of entrepreneurs who plans expansion on foreign markets, especially if he can get some guarantees and sureties. Without BGK guarantees and sureties, many of these investments would not be on such a large scale as they are with the guarantee. So I think, thanks to the minimis guarantees given by BGK, leasing companies could provide financing worth almost 1.5 billion zlotys, which is for 5,500 entrepreneurs who received such guarantees. So it's a quite a large group of entrepreneurs who do not only receive financing, but they get it at a higher level and for a longer period. And for many years we've been observing large increases. If leasing companies see two-digit increases. For example, in 2024 we gave financing for 110 billion zlotys, 112 even billion zlotys. So indeed we can say that among our clients we have such who would also expand abroad. So hopefully we all together in this environment could support Polish entrepreneurs to go safely to foreign markets including financing and also on the world markets, not only the closest markets, like Ukrainian one.
Thank you very much. We already talked about banks, HSBC Bank, which in fact comes from Asia. So there is a series of risks related to this. So, Director, what is your perspective from the point of view of the bank? What are the types of risks which are most commonly identified by Polish exporters or SMEs? What do they identify when it comes to their activity on foreign markets, and how do you try to limit this kind of risk for this kind of companies? Thank you, President. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In our bank, we are dealing with the risk, and the question concerns risk. Let me start by talking about the opportunities related to going abroad. Well, first of all, it's an opportunity for a dynamic development, dynamic growth, increasing the client database, diversification, and this is also something that opens us up to a bigger competition. Cost efficiency is really becoming important. Innovation and all that is really desirable. So entering markets is related to some risks. So a company that enters another market needs to take into account such things as the legal systems, regulatory requirements, risk related to evaluating contractors, business partners. We need to take into account the exchange rate risk. When looking at our current geopolitical situation, there are some additional risk factors, for example, political risk related to economic activity in some areas of the world. There are also some disturbances concerning the delivery chain. So this is something that has to be taken into account, and our survey that we do regularly within our clients, they tell us, according to this survey, they have bigger costs related to such risks. So we need to see what is the most important, and it's especially securing the financing for current activity, including bigger costs. We need to secure the exchange rate risk, currency risk. We need to take into account the insurance so that the contracts and transactions are secured, so all the receivables are secured. So what our clients said, it was already mentioned, but I will confirm it. It's that we see that the company is present first in Poland, then goes to neighboring markets, and they really take advantage of the European single market. Then they go to Great Britain, to the US. We see that our clients are more and more often interested in being present in Saudi Arabia, in United Arab Emirates. There is less interest, for example, in India, but and even less in China. What I would like to stress is something which is optimistic. Working with companies which are at their early stage of development, well, those companies, they already think about going global. They have high ambitions. They want to raise the bar to be present not only on the Polish market but also at international level, especially when we are talking about innovative companies with innovative products. There are no barriers. They want to go global and be present in many markets. Of course, it's a huge challenge. There are many risks related to that, but I'm glad that many companies think this way. Thank you. So, as we are talking about foreign markets, I would like to ask Piotr Jabłoński, Managing Director. We are running out of time. You are running out of time, in fact, because you have some plans. You are going to Italy to support our companies. You are going there soon. So that's why I would like to ask the following question. What destinations, apart from the EU, you perceive as the most interesting for Polish companies that you've been supporting with those long-term instruments, and what kind of problems do you see in long-term financing of expansion? Expansion, I mean small companies. So sometimes those are only first steps in their expansion, but they want to be more present on the markets first, expand on the markets they're already present on, and then scale up, which may be a problem. So, Director, of course, I'm going to Italy, to Rome. It's not that we are going to talk about the Italian market, but there is this Rebuild Ukraine conference there. So we're going to talk about Ukraine. We will present our activities as BGK, everything that's related to rebuilding Ukraine, the reconstruction of Ukraine, and Ukraine facility. This instrument will also be mentioned. Mr. Drop talked about it. And so Ukraine, it was already mentioned many times. We will have a set of specific instruments in Poland for small companies. There will be loans, 250 million, and low interest rates, 10 million loans that will be distributed through Bank Ochrony Środowiska. And this is a specific example of a financial instrument for Polish companies that would like to export elsewhere and to invest in Ukraine. Ukraine facility, as it was said, will be dedicated as such to Ukrainian entities, but those could be also Polish companies that will function there and take part in the reconstruction of Ukraine. So, depending on the geopolitical situation, we will see, but we're ready as a country to take advantage of our specific position to be a logistic hub for our companies, but not only for Polish companies, also for other investors who would like to invest in Ukraine from Poland. Other potential markets that were already mentioned, this is Middle East. Here we see not only big companies, but also the smaller ones. I took part in a mission to Riyadh, a mission of our bank, and we had the opportunity to get to know our entrepreneurs from the IT/ICT sector, the smaller and the bigger ones who are already there, who have contracts, and they are highly appreciated. For example, developers. It's not easy to enter the technology market, the programming market. So we are there as an institution to show that we are working there, that we have contacts. We, as a banking institution, we show that we support them and that we want to be present in the Middle East. The African potential, those are not easy markets, but this is an example where we cooperate with KUKE, and thanks to that we are able to finance export of technologies to African countries in this direct formula of financing either the beneficiaries or a given government. with this guarantee given by KUKE, so Polish technologies are bought by those countries. Recently, we financed Rwanda's government, who bought a technology from the cooling sector, cooling milk. So this is something really good as a potential. Africa, Asia, Central Asia, for example, is also a great potential. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, those are countries which are promising. And there we are also present there, and there are examples of Polish companies who have exported to those countries. We want to show those examples as role models of foreign expansion of Polish companies. So to answer your question about markets, yes, and what was the next question about instruments available? Yes, instruments, I already talked about it. So it's financing all kind of contractual guarantees, for example, which are necessary to perform a contract on those markets, so a letter of credit. This is a classical instrument that we have, and this is of use to smaller companies. As it was said, 3,000 transactions for SMEs, 80 countries within our strategy. We launched it recently till 2030. We want to open 100 market and finance at the level of 7 billion Polish zlotys. Thank you very much. Ad vocem. Please let me complete what was said. Well, it seems that we are looking for a miracle recipe for markets, for companies, and so on. But I may disappoint you, because there is no single miracle recipe that would help SMEs or micro companies or bigger companies. Every company is different. Every company within its sector, its activity, with its capacities and its openness, will decide on its own. I had the opportunity to introduce for 20 years companies from France to Poland and from Poland to France. It's a complexity of solutions. So if we take into consideration the fact that a micro company, it's several dozens or so of people who are hired in this company, please believe me that their role is not to look for ideas and see whether their product could be sold in Morocco, Iran, or elsewhere. So they need this one-stop shop, a solution that will allow them to understand how their company functions, what product they have, on what market in this very specific period of time it's possible to be. For example, on African markets there are some opportunities, whereas on Asian markets it's not possible to be present, or the other way around. So the link between local competencies of people who understand this company, who help them adapt their business strategy, together with the understanding of foreign markets. So Małych has been building this competence network. I saw what happened in France, only bringing together efforts between this advisory agency, Business France, and Banque Publique d'Investissement, which is the counterpart of BGK, that would invest and give guarantees and financing. So there will be advisors there that would function locally in regions in France and abroad that would know local markets. Only bringing together those three elements would be a recipe for success. And definitely then we can talk about the fact that we've managed to increase the number of exporters. France has managed to do it somehow, and only then we can say that it's a safe process. Another comment. Of course, you are right, Monika, and this exact scheme is really something that we apply in Team Poland. This is our mindset, our complementary soft skills, advisory skills provided by Małych, insurance provided by KUPE, PFE, and so on, equity financing, and PFR that has dedicated offers to SMEs. So fairs and trade fairs and so on. So there should be a one-stop shop. So we announced it on Monday. We will be starting with Ukraine. We created an interactive assistant for entrepreneurs where it's possible for a company to check on the internet what kind of services are needed on the Ukrainian market and how to join the group. This is the first step. We are now working on other solutions, and I think that soon we will be able to announce what kind of new solutions we will be having. This is only the beginning, but it's very important. And now we know that we were dispersed, and now there will be more synchronization. This is what was missing, and I do hope that it will change. But of course, we need some time. This was the first step, so we can already make sure that we'll be here next year. We'll have the same panel. But I would also like to ask a question to Mr. Kucharski to tell us what kind of risks we talked about are reflected by instruments available offered by banks to SMEs. We talked about the exchange rate risk. We also talked about guaranteeing receivables, and we said that there is a chance that some conditions will be favorable for SMEs. Of course, we know that SMEs bear a bigger risk than a bigger company, but we know that we would like to finance them. Yes, that's true that financial institutions offer a whole range of products, basic products such as a current bank account. This is something that may be surprising, but they need such an account in order to have settlements with social security and so on. So locally they need to have such a bank account. Apart from that, there are security elements such as guarantees, letter of credit, which confirm secure payments, which companies are less interested in is exports factoring. We can discount the receivables of our trade partners from abroad. So this is something that is starts being popular, and securing some forwards. The forwards, the most simple ones, they work very well for currency transactions. So if the client is really open, we can also take into account option-based products, even though they are not so popular. We as a global institution within our product line, we are open to innovative companies at a very early stage, scale-ups and startups.
So HBC Innovation Banking is part of our activity dedicated to supporting such companies. They are at an early stage of development, so they have more risk of doing their business, and there is more risk for these enterprises to fail. They will not achieve success, and we have a possibility here of carrying out a risk analysis of such business. And please believe me, if you look at such companies from the viewpoint of the standard model of running business and risk assessment, nothing will come out of it. We must do it differently. So we have competencies, we are open, we have first enterprises that we have successfully supported, and we are ready to give them financing and the structure of venture debt, which is unique on the market. The amounts may be not that high, it's up to 15 million euros. But if we talk about SMEs, well, these amounts are sufficient for them. there are also companies that think about global expansion, scalable activity. They are very much interested in entering international markets. So in such conditions, where the company is now going to Singapore, does it have a kind of advisor from Poland all the time, or is such a company taking care of your representative there in that country? Oh, it's a very good question. Thank you. We have services for clients like that. So the company comes from Poland, and its major advisor is here in Poland. So any demand for product, regardless of where the demand is, in which country, it could be discussed in Poland. And we have also dedicated people to contact there to support our countries in other countries, but the whole relationship is managed centrally here from Poland. If the company would like to get from the bank an analysis on the market on which it operates, then the global relationship manager from Poland is able to convince the guy in Singapore that he should supply it. Yes, of course, and it should be supplied to the client. But let me put it like that. We go broader. The bank does not always. It's not just the offer of products. And if the client goes enters exotic markets, like Asian markets, for example, then if they have a global, well-known partner there, then because the bank cooperates with with that client, then contractors, clients should have a positive approach to such company. We try to cooperate with our major hubs in Asia, in the Middle East, in the US, and we try to give information to our clients, the potential clients, on running business in the particular market. And sometimes there are situations, but mainly for medium-sized companies, that they look for business partners. So for this kind of matching, we do such matching for two companies that could do business together, which minimizes the risks on such markets and engages the partner, which is known on the local market. So any forms of getting analysis, financial analysis, or studies on a particular sector can be provided by us. Great. Director Jabłoński, I guess, wants to leave us. So thank you so much for your participation, and we wish you luck in Rome when you start reconstructing Ukraine and implement these plans. Now, another question. What can we expect now from the ministry? What do you plan? Because you do assess needs on the markets in the case of various sized enterprises. You look what we don't have, but what do you plan as regards support for experts, for MSMEs? Thank you. Maybe I will start with the following thing, because, well, we don't want to attract your clients, and we're respecting HSBC expert opinion, especially on the Asian market. We do share the diagnosis, as mentioned by Monica Constant, because we need a kind of comprehensive support service. And as Director Jabłoński said, support involves being the first contact point, and this is offered by foreign trade offices, and there are 55 of them offering their services on 70 markets. So the first contact of the exporter or potential exporters, the market analysis, the inquiries to legal entities on those markets, brokers who can provide them with such services. But it is also a service of networking and matching with potential buyers, chambers, on this kind of first reconnaissance of the market. Then these are financial and fair-related PARP does it. That is related to internationalization for SMEs in 15 strategic sectors. And in these sectors, we also have specific markets. Of course, we know that there is no panacea for everything, because it could be different for agri-tech and chemical industry. But there might be different possibilities for yachts, IT and ICT than financial issues. So BGK, KUKE and PFR group implement that. And finally, instruments that Poland offers as a member state of the European Commission. So, for example, there's been a European Commission call to remove barriers to trade. So 45% of EU trade and Polish trade goes through FTA, free trade agreements, but 56 is according to WTO. And there are very often barriers that we manage together with the European Commission to eliminate, like access to markets. So I encourage businesses to show their problems. I can show various success stories as regards, for example, the source of Polish dairy products, baby formula, milk powder to North African markets, because demography shows it's a development market. They were very protectionist, but together we managed to open these markets. And there are many issues here. That's pertinent to agri-food products, which are characterized by advanced protection forms. And here the state also operates through diplomatic channels, some integration activities in addition to long-term promotion of Poland until 2030. We would have kind of short term, where we pointed out to 14 strategic markets in which we would be involved in the coming 12 months. We would combine affairs, political visits, and agencies' involvements. And we were doing our best so that on each continent such involvement could take place, like mission to Canada, to Vancouver Web Summit. You know, Canada is the country which is now intensely looking for diversifying trade and investment. We are looking for kind of flexible forms of responding, which are part of broader investment strategies, so that to be foreseeable and not to be sort of stiff, and to fulfill the needs submitted by Polish businesses. Of course, here the ability of SMEs to articulate their interests is much smaller compared to big companies. So I encourage you also to contact local governments and other brokering institutions, so that we know what you really need, because finally our business is our employer. And here Ukraine, Team Poland, the concept of reconstruction is a good example of that. Poland is the second largest trading partner of Ukraine and the first in Europe, and this reconstruction must take place with our participation. But in which form? So now what's new will you have in your activities? Would you integrate the activities of the companies that we've been discussing so far? Because this request appeared also in the previous panel. Right, very much so. Now we are we are making operational strategy. We would have also strategy of economic policy. We are finalizing work on establishing interministerial team, to which we would invite PFR group participants and economic organizations. So one of our criticism, or we're criticized for being silos, like silos. So we see trees and not the forest. So we are now changing it, building it, and with the perspective for the coming 5 years. And the program of economic diplomacy now for 14 countries would be reviewed, updated every, let's say, 14 months. And we are waiting for your opinions so that we should go where we should be. Okay, so waiting for our voice now. Madam President, please refer to just one issue that we want to address, that we want also to inform our authorities about it. That is, to transfer some information about it, and then after some time to ask them how it is all implemented. What is the major obstacle to promoting export activities of SMEs, please? One. Just one, yes. We won't repeat ourselves later. I would focus on, I think, access to information and information exchange. SMEs go to the leasing company, they have no credit history sometimes. The credit history develops with time, but it's not necessarily available to banks and vice versa. And we want also clients to have better credit worthiness. We would like to more easily exchange information with these clients so that to support their development on the local and international market, and that gives them faster solutions, bigger opportunities for capitalists, and higher safety, because the exchange of information makes us protect against possible risks. One, so that's it. Now, Director Kucharski. Well, this is what we are addressing to you, the man from the ministry. Okay, let me tell the following thing. You first referred to the speech of the minister who had a request to MSMEs to exchange their knowledge about the access to products and instruments. And it seems we have a whole spectrum of such products. And if we take into account what the manager from BGK, Kuke, said, we have the same products as offered by the agency in the US, Export Finance in the UK. So indeed, the cooperation is now good, but what we should increase openness of people who manage SMEs, because if you look at the statistics, still 67% of exports activity, foreign activity, is financed by their own funds. I know that small companies have limited funds, but if they are more open and they understand it better, we could increase it. So first of all, more information, education. So now this appeal to the government side, so that they should have one contact point that would provide advice, would support and suggest solutions, and suggest how to be present abroad. So that's an important thing. So of course, will we have such a kind of information point for SMEs related to their expansion abroad? So, for example, for these 14 destinations now, the administration would be responsive, because such point does exist. That we have a Trade Gov.pl portal. It would be equipped with new functionalities. We are now changing it so that to use AI tools for analysis for companies, and there is information about promotion events there, and contact data to some institutions. Trade Gov.pl is one-stop shop through various institutions, and CRMs is able to direct exporter or potential exporter to specific markets, specific sectors, and to specific institutions. And we are very much interested in your feedback, but so that we could learn from you what we can correct and how to expand the Trade Gov.pl. All right, thank you so much. As a wrap-up, I can say that it turns out again that the issue of educating people, availability of information, the quality of information, and general access to such information is one of the key issues for further development of our exports and export success. And let's not remember, we have 380 billion USD in terms of value of Polish exports. And this year, as regards GDP, we would go beyond 4 trillion PLN. So it seems we would be, in terms of USD, a trillion economy in the world. So we wish good luck to SMEs, and we must work so that to support SMEs in their aspirations, which is effectively done by people representing here the leasing companies, Madam President, banks, director, and public administration, operating now in a more concentrated way, especially on these 14 preferred markets. Director, thank you so much. Thank you for your attention.
Co będzie przerwa?
Szanowni Państwo, dziękuję bardzo.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. In a moment, we'll have a kind of lunch break, let's put it like that, and we will meet together in 30 minutes' time, more or less. Now I have a request to you. As every day, Lena Grochowska Foundation, which has its stand in the lobby, I'm sure you know this stand, because this is the only place where you can buy something nice and that you can put later on your table or wherever else, and it is made by the people that the foundation takes care of. All right, that's not true. As for the lunch break, it's after the end of today's meeting. Sorry for that mistake, because yesterday it was different. Nevertheless, now there will be a break, and please visit the stand of Lena Grochowska Foundation. It is a company that employs people with disabilities, with Downs, autism, and mental diseases. And their mission is to involve them into the professional life by developing their competences. They have just one motto: you buy, you help. And you will see their kind of not typical things, objects, and they could be later on given as gifts to other people. They are always present at our fora, and they will be very appreciative. They would appreciate your visit even, and maybe, well, thanks to that visit, you may have some idea for the future. So now let's have a break, and when you hear the bell ringing, you will have to go back to the conference room for the next debate about the international expansion of Polish innovative companies. Thank you so much.
Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen, international expansion of Polish innovative MSMEs, with whom and how to effectively enter global markets. This is a very interesting subject, I must say. So I'm convinced that this will be a very interesting debate too. So first of all, about the competitiveness of European innovations. This will be an introduction by Marcin Wolski, Chief Economist of the European Investment Bank office in Poland. Marcin Wolski, are you here with us? He's actually online, so of course I forgot, but I didn't know exactly where Marcin Wolski was supposed to be. So here it is, the video that we have. The floor is yours.
To może zróbmy w ten sposób, że
So let's do it this way. Still we don't hear from Mr. Wolski. Well, we're not sure that we can hear him well. Marcin, are you with us?
Ja słyszę Państwa bardzo dobrze.
super. Panie
Nie
Marcinie,
wiem, czy mnie słychać.
wszyscy są już gotowi na Pańskie wystąpienie, a zatem jeszcze raz. Marcin Wolski, główny ekonomista Biura Europejskiego Banku Inwestycyjnego.
Chief economist from the European Investment Bank in Poland that will be talking about the competitiveness of European innovation. So the floor is yours. Thank you for inviting me. I'd like to congratulate the Polish Banks Association for organizing this event. Can I get my slides, please? Yes, okay, thank you. Well, as I've already said, thank you for inviting me. I'm online. Unfortunately, I couldn't be with you in person. Of course, I would rather be in Warsaw, but I can't be. So we are here to talk about competitiveness, innovation in Europe, in the Central Eastern Europe, and in Poland. So we don't need to predict anything because we already know that our group from the European Investment Bank has had a series of tools and data that allows us to understand the investment environment of the region. Please show me the next slide. I would like to start by good news. The last 30 years, this was the time of a great, undeniable success of convergence, which means faster economic growth of the EMEA region countries as compared to other European countries, regardless of two crises in 2007 and 2009 and the COVID crisis. This convergence is still there. So the shorter the distance is between us and other countries, the slower the convergence is. However, it's still there. It's still part of macroeconomic indicators. So one element that has been discussed at length is that the success of convergence is due to this openness of the market. We can see it on this graph, where the share of exported goods in the Eastern European region is significantly higher. So this kind of, unfortunately, the quality of the sound is very poor, so I can't hear everything. Well, usually Every success is related to a series of challenges. Please, next slide, please.
Jeżeli skupimy się bardziej właśnie na tym wschodzie,
Let's concentrate on this slide. The productivity as an indicator how to transform capital equity into a product. Here are the enterprises of the region. This is based on an investment survey from last year. So if we concentrate on companies from the region and divide them into companies whose owners are foreigners, not necessarily from Europe, you can see that those companies have this productivity level which is higher. It could suggest that this technological progress comes from the technology transfer. And however, for the last 10 years, if we concentrate on family companies, we see that this extra technological progress brought by foreign capital is smaller.
jest to po lewej stronie trzeci poziomy słupek od góry. Więc co to oznacza w praktyce? No,
What does it mean in practice?
w regionie mamy firmy, które są tak samo produktywne, jak topowe firmy.
We have productive companies in the region. Where is the problem that some companies are productive and some are not? The problem is that there are not many such companies which are really productive. As you can see on the graph, which is on the right-hand side, you can see the types of companies according to how much investment in a company is dedicated to R&D. You see that many companies have such investments, and it's comparable to the US, and those companies have a similar structure. But what is worrying is this long tail of companies that don't invest much in R&D. So this is the key thing, the key problem that we are trying to sort out in the European Investment Bank. The next slide, please. How can we fight with that? To stimulate investment, let's try to understand what are the investment barriers according to those companies. What is an obstacle to investment processes? What are the key problems in the regions that we can see on the left-hand side? It's uncertainty and cost of energy and lack of skills. Energy, this uncertainty, so this and lack of skills, this is something that is listed by all the companies, whereas energy cost, this is something which is characteristic for our region here, that limits considerably the investments in this region. Another thing which I would like to mention is, as I said at the beginning, companies from the region and from Poland have taken advantage of this single market, but it turns out that the single market is not so efficient, for example, and it also results from our survey, 3% of their turnover is dedicated to personnel. I don't understand really, it's of very poor quality. Unfortunately, we cannot translate because the quality of the sound is really poor.
Tego zagregowanego, jaki oferuje, jakie oferuje wspólny rynek. Następny slajd. I kolejnym takim elementem naszych badań, szczególnie na topie pod kątem szybko zmieniającej się sytuacji geopolitycznej i budowania łańcuchów dostaw, to są te dwa wykresy naszego ostatniego raportu właśnie na temat łańcuchów dostaw opublikowanego niedawno, tygodnie temu. Jeśli przyjrzycie na wykres po lewej stronie, pokazuje on różnego rodzaju zakłócenia w łańcuchach dostaw i to, ile firm, spojrzałem na firmy o dużej produktywności, czyli te, które są bardzo efektywne w tworzeniu produktu, i te o mniejszej produktywności, okazuje się, że zarówno te i te zgłaszają problemy z łańcuchami dostaw, czyli ta innowacyjność, ten postęp technologiczny jest czynnikiem sam sobie jest wystarczający do tego, aby w 100% zniwelować ekspozycję właśnie na, czy to ryzyko zrywanych łańcuchów, czy skracanych łańcuchów dostaw. Niemniej jednak bardzo wyraźnie jest, na który chciałbym zwrócić uwagę po prawej stronie, to jest to, że firmy, które możemy opisać jako innowacyjne, te, które wprowadzają nowe rozwiązania na rynek, firmy, które są cyfrowe, które stosują rozwiązania cyfrowe, firmy, które stosują nowe techniki zarządcze. Te firmy o wiele szybciej adaptują się do zmieniających warunków geopolitycznych. To widzimy na niemal we wszystkich zgłaszanych tych czynnikach adaptacyjnych. I chyba to jest ten wniosek, którym chciałbym zakończyć prezentację, że w tak niepewnym świecie, w tak szybko zmieniającym się i galopującym wręcz świecie, ta zdolność do adaptacji firm staje się tą nową przewagą konkurencyjną, którą musimy zastanowić się, w jaki sposób wykorzystać, aby budować odporność gospodarek, aby wprowadzić gospodarki na zrównoważoną ścieżkę rozwoju i zapewnić długofalowy wzrost gospodarczy. I następny slajd poproszę. I pozwolę sobie właśnie zakończyć prezentację. Zachęcam Państwa do zapoznania się z bardziej szczegółowymi wnioskami, które są dostępne w raportach, które wszystkie oczywiście publikujemy na naszej stronie internetowej. Bardzo dziękuję Państwu za uwagę i jeszcze raz za zaproszenie.
Dziękujemy bardzo.
Thank you. I'm really sorry for the quality of the connection, but unfortunately, you know how it is sometimes with this kind of online connections. Fortunately, the presentation was really interesting, and we could somehow guess what was contained in the presentation. So in the second part, we'll have a second introductory speech by Tomasz Pawlonka, who is the director of the Research and Analysis team of the Polish Bank Association. He will talk about the competitiveness of the Polish economy and the enterprises versus global investment challenges. Please show me the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it will be a real challenge to present you such a long analysis within 10 minutes, so I will switch slides very quickly. The dynamics will be high. For the last 20 years in the Polish economy, we've achieved a lot. And what increased significantly is the GDP. The GDP increase of the real GDP increase gross product. This is really one of the highest level in the EU now. So you can see the comparison between different EU countries. Only Ireland is ahead of us. And because of its specificity, it is not taken into account in statistics. So this average development rate for the last 20 years achieved 3.9% year on year. This is how there was the level of growth of the Polish economy year on year. So the considerable part of this growth was the growth of exports for the last 20 years. The exports of goods has increased 5.5 times, and the services, it was 8.5 times. So, according to analytics, Poland has gained a lot thanks to its integration to the EU. On average, 40% of economic growth in this time was possible thanks to the integration with the EU. And a significant part of this impetus was growing trade exchange and exports. On average, analytics say that this dynamics is between 1 and 2.1 percentage points per year. This is the growth. Already in 2025, our economy will become the 20th biggest economy in the world. Now, in the middle of the year, we are close to Switzerland, who will be 21st soon. Till 2035, we have real chances of becoming the 18th biggest economy at global level. But this is the end as when it comes to those optimistic aspects. Let's move to some negative ones. There are many barriers. As regards, for example, industrial production, we got this very high growth for the last 15 years. When it comes to industrial production now, we are ranked second after Ireland. 100% of growth when it comes to industrial production. What we should mention that for the last 3 years, we've slowed down a bit, so there is no growth. This is also the consequence of the situation that is taking place now everywhere in the EU. So this slowdown, this stagnation when it comes to industrial production, this costs us really a lot. As we analyzed within our team, the fact that we are now diverging from this path, which was a huge growth, now it has costed us for the last 2 years on average 1.3 percentage point of our GDP that could be achieved if we followed this path. When it comes to work productivity, labor productivity, it has grown a lot recently, but we need to keep improving the productivity of labor. We are 25% in minus as compared to the OECD average. About competitiveness of the economy, demography factors play a very significant role here. In 2001, the average age in Poland compared to the average of the EU was 3 years lower. Now we've caught up and it's 1.7 years. And it's even worse when it comes to the demographic burden. Poland is this red line below. You can see in 2012 everything has changed, a turning point, and we are catching up really these bad statistics. The demographic burden consequences has on the economy. According to the last OECD analysis, we are one in a group of countries having the biggest threat regarding demographic burden. Of course, there are two elements. One is related to pensions and the other one related to health. healthcare. So we are leaders here, and we're having more and more problems related to that. It has also an impact on the job market. As of today, as results from the analysis performed by the European Commission, we have one of the lowest free resource of labor force. But there are some positive changes that have taken place recently. What was reduced was the employment in time-consuming jobs. What has increased is that we are now in an economy which is more and more based on knowledge. This is already happening. So now when it comes to the capacity of Polish entrepreneurs and Polish economy to adapt to solutions based on AI, according to Standard & Poor's, we are one of the leaders here. So we have a high potential when it comes to adopting these solutions. So when we look, however, when we look at latest data of the European, from Standard & Poor's, so it's not necessarily something that is applied in practice. Of course, the level of using AI by entrepreneurs from 2023, 2024 increased a lot, but still we have a lot to do. And competitiveness rankings, we have many rankings of that kind, taking into consideration different factors, but now European Innovation Scoreboard. I do hope it will be available soon for 2025. So there is this Swiss business school that performed a ranking, and I'm not optimistic because for the last year, in 2024, we dropped by 11 places and we are ranked 52nd. This is a huge drop, especially that areas that are identified as obstacles, problems when it comes to our competitiveness is the business efficiency and the government efficiency. So many rankings show us on different ranks. CTA shows us that we are ranked as 26th, but it indicates also specific places where we are far from the EU average. One of those elements is the freedom element, including economic freedom. Another material that I would like to present, which is how we are ranked in the Freedom Economic Index. The position below, it's our position as compared to other EU countries. So I'd like to point out those red dots, efficiency of the judiciary and freedom on the job market, monetary freedom. This is where we are diagnosed as far from the average. That's why we are ranked very low. We are ranked high when it comes to investment, government investments. When it comes to investment rate in 2024, well, here we underestimated 17.4%. This was the first projection. Now we have 16.9. We, as compared to the EU average, we miss 160 billion Polish zloty, but this is not a good reference point because we need to get compared to other countries from our region to see how they grow. So what kind of states we would like to be compared to? Well, in 2024, if we compare ourselves to those countries, we were 33 billion Polish zlotys away from those countries. Questions regarding smaller competitiveness and the low level of private investment. This has been diagnosed by many economists as important barriers which will be important till 2027. Ladies and gentlemen,
I've already said that the problem is the level of investment, but I may add that also the structural investment is a problem. Here we have data for 2023 because Eurostat does not have full statistics for 2024. So let me focus on the fact that as regards public investment, which save the Polish level of investment in total, here the level is much higher than the European average, but the problem that is diagnosed is the level of private investment, both at the level of entrepreneurs, which is 70% of European average, or household investments, where the average it is we have 60% of European average. So as regards enterprises, this is the most recent data from Poland statistics, the real level of statistics. And when I presented the data at the end of 2024, 0.57 was the level of Poland's investments in relation to GDP. But and I thought it would be no worse, but it is now worse. It's lower. So on the accumulated side, you can see it on the right-hand side. The level shows really the trend that accompanies investments. So, ladies and gentlemen, why these drops? And I would put it like that. To a large extent, the situation, these drops in investment levels are due to a situation in the nearest environment. Also, exporters sensitive to the situation in Germany had lower investment levels. So far, for example, top 100 enterprises invested a lot before, but in 2024, that was at the negative level. Among the barriers pointed out by entrepreneurs, this is survey carried out by ENG Bank Śląski. There are many analyses like that. Please read also the program of the Warsaw Banking Institute, where we also make such analysis. So first, what the most important thing is the quality and stability of law, especially administrative law, foreseeability and stability of the tax system, and high cost of investment, including inflation. All right, so this is a dramatic chart showing that about 35–40% of enterprises say we don't need to invest. We don't think it makes sense. That's on the right-hand side. And what is also concerning is the very low investment level in research and in development, here in the middle in green. So generally, entrepreneurs say we mainly finance our investments from our own capital, and they don't use financial leverage. But the problem is that there are not too many investments like that. From the perspective of the coming years, it is important that the banking sector should be more involved in financing such projects. Please have a look at these graphs showing our position against other EU member states. The use of credit is much lower. If we look at the trend, it is downward trend. So fewer and fewer companies are applying for financing through credit. But if entrepreneurs apply for such financing, then in Poland, such financing, they will be given much more often than in other EU member sectors in other countries. But the banking sector had high results in 2023 and 2024, and now it's ready to increase their credit action. This is an additional position of 380 billion zlotys, so they can increase by that amount financing investment. Okay, not to be so pessimistic, let me finally say that we face now the years in which transformation programs will be implemented. According to the analysis of PKO SA, most likely by 2030, we have a chance to double the investment level as compared to the average from 2021 and 2023. That means that the investment levels at the level of 25% of GDP can be reached. By analyzing what was going on in 2024 and which most likely would not appear in 2025, is this negative input of public investment in 2024, and this trend has reversed in 2025. Now the last issue is that the cost of new investments according to cost catalog of costs. So if we look if we compare the two graphs here on the right hand side, that entrepreneurs think there will be an increase in new investments. So in 2025, we have a chance to reverse the negative trend that we've observed within the last few years. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Director, for very sort of speedy but substantial presentation. Let me invite Grzegorz Sawowski, Editor-in-Chief, my company Polska magazine. He will be the moderator of the debate. And I guess you know, Director, but I'd like to just tell you that I must now ask for arranging chairs on stage. Okay, so we can sit comfortably. We can put some bottles of water there, so you understand it's necessary, so that the presentation could be seen on the screen. All of it. So now a traditional question. Do you like to introduce your guests? All right, so I'm going to give you the mic. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So to speed it up, I'd like to invite immediately all panelists. We have a distinguished guest, Katarzyna Dubert-Sokulska, President of the Polish Agency for Enterprise Development. Mr. Arnheim, Country Manager, International Finance Corporation, World Bank Group. Magdalena Proga-Stępień, Vice President of the Management Board of Santander Bank Polska. Magdalena Zmitrowicz, Vice President of the Millennium Bank. Maciej Srebro, Director of the Export Support Department, Polish Investment and Trade Agency. And Grzegorz Uszczyn, Director of European Investment Bank in Poland. All right, I can ask questions. Everything works. I'm very happy that I'm going to moderate the debate. I remember a year ago in my company Polska, we designed the cover with 25 companies that expanded abroad and you've never heard of. So that was a very nice story of people who sell products abroad. Of course, they are small companies. Such a company, let's say, makes female underwear, Le Petit Trou. I read about it in the Financial Times. It's very well known. And this great company that makes metal frames where you could put your pictures. 90% of their products are sold abroad. Other space company, Thorium, 11 labs. So there are some of such companies, but all the time there are barriers. Each success also shows that there are barriers. Well, presentations show that we are ready for expansion in terms of technology, in mental terms. We are prepared to capture markets, but we are not doing that. So let's start with Madam President. So now, what about the barriers? What are they like? Where do you see them? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the question gives a long I should give a long answer to such a question. There is no simple answer to that. We see that at the level of competencies, of the mindset and willingness of entrepreneurs to go to enter foreign markets. Even at that level, we identify barriers. Of course, there are entrepreneurs for whom international expansion is absolutely natural, But there is a huge group of such entrepreneurs who could do it, but they don't want to because they don't have to, because they are afraid of, because they don't feel competent enough. Why this fear? Why are they afraid? Because the companies that I've mentioned are, I guess, different, because they started selling abroad immediately. So from the very beginning, their mindset was such that they would export their products. So why our SMEs are afraid of that? Is that a kind of mental barrier? I think so, yes. Many of them don't know those markets. It's kind of pure human being fear. But when they go, for example, to the fair, then they say that other countries, other products and companies are not better than theirs, and there is no cause for concern, for feeling weaker, worse, smaller. But yes, indeed, that barrier does exist. Competencies, for example, language competencies, sales skills, marketing possibilities. So yes, these are the barriers, but small entrepreneurs very often need support to be able to overcome such barriers. All right, so let's go further. Ari Naim, how do you see this willingness of expanding by Polish enterprises? And I'd like to ask you about the risk. Do Polish companies assess well the risk of foreign expansion? Do they estimate it in the right way?
Thank you very much. And let me first thank the Polish Banking Association for the invitation to contribute to such an important topic, because I really believe that for Poland, and we have seen, I mean, after 30 years of incredible success, I mean, this question of internationalization is actually a logical next step, because it ties into the competitiveness of the economy. And for firms, I believe, if you look at Poland today, I mean, you have an incredible number of small and medium-sized firms that have been extremely successful in Poland, extremely successful also in exporting. But obviously, Poland was a very sizable market, so they didn't need to go too far away. But 30 years later, now, the Polish economy is still in a transition, in particular in the small business segment. So I would say most of the firms still are at the first or second generation of business owners. They have succession issues, they lack strategic vision, they lack technology adoption, I mean, as we have seen from the previous conversations, digitalization, and so I think at the end of the day it ties a lot with the institutionalization of the firm segment. On the one hand, you have like big, large, very often state-owned companies that know how to do this, and the SME segment is less institutional. And so that's why on our side, I mean, I think we see this as a very important opportunity for Poland to build competitiveness. A very important role that the banking sector has to play in accompanying their client towards this transition. And this transition has to do with governance. It has to do with bringing more institutional capital in these companies. For instance, I mean, this is why we support a lot the private equity segment in Poland, the private capital, the venture capital segment. And I think that these are really critical elements that will help companies take more leadership and build more sustainable strategies in the long term. It's clear that now we are in a world of increased uncertainty, and in this world, I mean, diversifying is the key word, and diversifying and building resilience.
Diversification is the key, yeah?
Right. Now I'd like to ask a representative of the Santander Bank. It's not Magdalena Proga-Stępień, but her deputy Tomek Ciążela. I saw that some people were surprised because they wanted to see an elegant woman, but they see a bold guy. But that was a kind of urgent situation, and I couldn't even dress properly. All right, so now the question: why Polish companies don't want to go abroad? Why they are unwilling to do so? Why the very small percentage of Polish SMEs want to enter foreign markets? So where are the barriers and why? There are different barriers. First, they are mental barriers related to the fact that we don't know well foreign markets. Don't they want to go abroad? I don't know. I mean, it seems they want to, but we have two sort of directions. They want to be present, or they enter close markets, south to the south, for example, or Germany, for example. Or it could be also the south. If we look at top 10 of our portfolio, there is Germany, Czechia, France, the Netherlands, Spain. So these are the destinations because we know them and we understand them. However, the key problem in Poland, and it was shown on the graphs today, so the key problem is that we as enterprises, we don't want to be financed by external capital. So we have less capital to compete against other foreign companies and companies abroad, because they have more financing by debt, and by that they reduce their capital cost. They use the financial leverage, and thanks to that they can allocate surpluses of profits for investment, for improving their machines, and here we are losing. If we look at it in the context of robotization in Poland, then Poland has 5 times less robots per 10,000 companies compared to Germany, 6 times less than Sweden. So indeed here we still have a great deal to do. Now, Madam President Zmitrowicz, so I'd like to maybe agitate you a bit. I've been thinking whether, as regards small companies' expansion, maybe regulations play a role. And here, regulations maybe are not so clear, or in other countries, but in Germany and in France, business has a great impact on administration, and that's why these companies they may be afraid of the fact that they would not be able to compete in sort of clear conditions, transparent conditions. Well, I would put it like that. From my experience, and I've been working on the market for 25 years, I don't know if it's a lot or not, but I do remember the companies that had sales at the level of 3 million or 2-3 million. These were micro companies. Today, they are companies which have big factories in England, in Ireland, in Czechia, in various countries. And I will tell you that I'm kind of freak, I would call it, of hard work, because I hold meetings with clients every day. At least three meetings a day, a minimum one. So when I remember Q1, during which in the first month in the new work, because I'm part of the Millennium Board, I've held 35 meetings with clients, and practically most of them sell abroad or bought factories abroad or plan to buy such factories abroad. And I might say, I dare say now that Polish companies now are not so afraid anymore, because our companies, I guess we can use all the fingers of our 2 hands to count how many of these companies invested in the US or bought some production facilities there. And there are many transactions, and we buy also various factories for our clients abroad that buy such factories for various reasons, because they want to have access to the manufacturing of their machines, or they don't want to wait for a long time. They are innovative, they enter new markets, and they need some facilities for that. And from that perspective, I would not say that we are afraid, but well, the internal market is not sufficient anymore, and we saw it during the COVID pandemic, because we said that it was large companies that invest. Of course, they do, because it's easier for them. Like using EU funds, those who had better financial specialists, they were more successful in using EU funds. But big companies are successful or not. CCC, for example, shoes manufacturer withdrew from Germany, and then they were back in Germany. But yes, it's not only this one. What is important is diversification of the market. You must have experience. You have to know how consumers on particular markets react. You must get to know kind of mood of the market. So this issue of your experience, like in the bank, when you are more experienced, you can better assess and structure the transaction. And the same is with the experience of our clients who enter foreign markets. But we, as banks, help our customers. We do not only give kind of financial advice, but we take into account other risks like regulation, reputation risks, product risks, and other risks. So we, as the Millennium Bank, have branches through BCP headquarters in China and Macau, in Africa. They are not typical countries, and we are able to help clients there. Are there any situations that you have clients and you see that the product could be sold abroad, and you tell them to do that, to sell it abroad?
Yes, we can talk about it with them, but it's up to the customer to make a decision. He's responsible for his own decisions. So we only evaluate those decisions. So it's not like that. But of course, if we see something that we can, for example, present a report or help, well, this is possible. Polish companies, they design installations in African countries. They built there. We remember that during the communist period already they were present somewhere abroad. So there was this experience there, and you see that there are not many such investment even in our country. So for those companies to survive, it's necessary to go abroad. Who built the Tesla manufacturing plant near Berlin? It's a Polish company. Yes, they won a tender. Polish entrepreneurs are doing very well, and we are here to evaluate the risk of a given transaction or build a consortium for a transaction. But I would be far from saying that we lack something or that we are missing something. Winning a tender for a Tesla production plant is something really big. It's another level of projects. We are in another league of players. So I think that we've got many competences, we got many investments here in our country. There will be also the CPK airport that was supposed to be built there in our country. So there will be work for our companies, but we need to help them, especially in difficult markets. Africa, of course, it's not so obvious. We need to help them with this kind of markets. Thank you. Now, Director, question to you. Maciej Srebro, the question is for you. Do you see those barriers? What are those barriers? Or maybe it's not true that there are some barriers, in fact. Good afternoon. This is true and false to say that there are barriers. They are there, of course, but it's a trap of an average market. The many entrepreneurs are doing well on our market, and they see a need for a global expansion because they are doing well here. I'll not enter into the description of the structure of the Polish entrepreneurship because when we look at it from bird's eye view, we have big companies, very small companies, and what is missing are medium companies because they are the companies that really help us expand abroad. So this this assumption is not true, because I agree with what was said that Polish companies are doing very well abroad. I know 100 or so companies that function abroad. They had a lot of success there. An example. A company from Poland which produces uniforms, for example, for the Swiss, Norwegian army and so on. This is done by a Polish company, those uniforms. And for the Polish army, are they producing also uniforms for No, there is a problem there. Let's not enter into this debate how the defense industry in Poland functions as such. This is a separate subject. But in general, if there is a market that is quite competitive and that has good regulations, then Polish companies are doing very well on such markets, which are well regulated. When it comes to other markets, the Polish Agency of Investment and Trade has 54 offices all over the world, so we have an overview of the activity of Polish companies on other markets such as Africa, Asia, or Latin America. So those are specific markets. We need development aid and other kind of aid. We need the involvement of our state, of our agency, and the representatives of our branches, which are GovPL branches. It's hard to do anything without it. Those are ceremonial markets where also those governments needs to be involved. So examples of companies on African markets, for example. Yes, there are great examples of Polish companies. For example, in Angola. Well, I must say that I don't have an office in Angola. We will set an office there. But there is a Polish investment zone which was created by Polish companies which are very active there. They got these developers in market and the clothing market. So Angola, which is naturally linked with Brazil and Portugal, well, there are also Polish companies. The same for Rwanda, the biggest developer's project in the center of Rwanda. I was there to sign an MOU. So this is done by a Polish company. To sum up this part of our debate, there are no barriers for Polish companies because Polish companies are doing very well abroad. Of course, they need help. We need to help them. We need to give them additional means for such markets as Asia or Africa. So some aid for their development, for investment. But from the commercial point of view, they are doing very well. Ukraine, then. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that Polish companies are the second exporter after China to the Ukrainian market. It seems impossible, but that's a fact. So to sum up, if we help a little bit on exotic, so to say, market, which is necessary, then I'm sure that Polish companies will have a success, will do very well. There are no barriers, constraints to their development. I will not enter into a debate concerning building Polish brands and so on. Of course, 80% of Polish furniture is exported under foreign brands. This is another problem, but exports, we will continue supporting exports in our activity. Now, Grzegorz Rapsztyn, Director of the European Investment Bank. To sum up this part of the discussion, because I will move on to the next question on how you can help those companies, the companies that would like to go abroad. So just about barriers, are they here or As it was said, paradoxically, we are a well-developed market and a big market, and maybe we don't need to sell abroad. We don't see this need. Of course, there is a problem that we have a relatively big internal market. This is the Polish market, and for many SMEs, this market is big enough in terms of their expansion that they limit themselves at some point to this market. They want to be present internally, and they don't have any incentive. They don't want to internationalize their business or invest abroad, because if we want it or not, there are some barriers, regulatory barriers, for example, but there are also mental barriers which are an obstacle, a constraint in this expansion, regardless of all the positive examples that have been mentioned today. Let me refer to the presentation by Marcin Wolski. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear him very well, but the main topic, the main thought that was not well expressed in his presentation is that the key competence now is the capacity of entrepreneurs to get adapted to new, ever-changing conditions, crises, and so on, that are here from the time of the pandemic, the energy crisis, and now the armament and all that. I understood that we are ready to adapt. Of course we are, but when looking at Polish entrepreneurship, there is this stereotype, a characteristic, which is a good thing for us, is that we are able to adapt in a very dynamic and efficient way to changing conditions. Maybe this will be the potential of the Polish economy. And thanks to that, we will have a success not only in Poland, increase competitiveness here, but also abroad, be present abroad. Of course, at this level, we can talk about it, but what is important is that development institutions such as the European Investment Bank support this kind of processes both in Poland and in the EU. I'm talking about the expansion in the EU, but also abroad. We talked about developing markets in Africa, in Asia. The European Investment Bank has dedicated agenda EIB Global, which is dedicated to investments outside of the EU, and we concentrate, of course, on candidate countries, on neighboring countries, EU neighboring countries, where it's possible to invest directly and help Polish entrepreneurs invest. We're talking about new production plants and so on. So, as European Investment Bank, we have this kind of policy. We don't, as a rule, we don't finance international takeovers. This is our policy. But okay, maybe we'll have the opportunity to talk about it a bit later. Is that we are launching a new program aiming at supporting innovation in the EU and supporting tech companies. And there is an exception concerning takeovers in a situation when, for example, we have a very innovative product which is from Poland, and within the innovation creation process, R&D process, within this expansion, you can see that there are some complementary smaller entities elsewhere in the EU. And then if we see that there are such small companies, so within this strategy of creating innovative product, this Polish company would like to acquire an EU entity that has complementary technologies. So we can give some financing for that. First of all, to strengthen the company that is taking over the other one. And secondly, to keep the technologies within the EU so that they are here on our continent. So we may imagine the following situation, that a tech startup that sees a competition in France or in Spain, I understand they may ask you that you finance the process of taking over the competition. Yes, the condition is based on technology. Yeah, there is this technological condition to be met. If we have this standard industrial production or standard sector of activity, well, then it will not apply. The condition will not apply. But this technological innovation factor plays a role for two reasons. First of all, we see that there is a gap, so we want the technologies that are created in the EU, they stay in the EU. So this is the aim of this product, exactly that the product and the technologies are as innovative as possible. So, and the aim is that our companies who have become champions at the European level stay in Europe, don't need to run away or being taken over by the Americans and so on. Thank you. Mrs. Zmitrowicz, now I know that we are running out of time. What a bank could do, how can you help in this foreign expansion? Yes, we don't have much time because we said that we have a credit committee at 5. Well, yes, time counts. A bank may help a lot, may help support in this expansion. Is like playing Tetris. There are many different regulations and entry barriers, so we are here to keep this puzzle all together so that those elements are here, and we prepare the client for different things that may happen. So as I said about expansion, when we have branches abroad as a bank, we are able to prepare a client to check all the legal aspects, prepare a report for them. What's more, have meetings and make our conference rooms available for meetings and so on. So plan meetings, and you are also doing this, yes? So we've been doing it for years now. So it depends. Not every bank has such a possibility, but we have such a possibility because we also have people who speak the Chinese language and the Portuguese in our company. They speak different languages. That's why it's possible to communicate, to write some things for our clients, to plan meetings in our branches, or to check the other side, check the potential client. You know that in China, it's not that you have financial data which is available. It's not available. So if having this knowledge, some knowledge, we can help, we help. Is there a specific example, Tetris? So what is this regulatory Tetris? Without mentioning the company, it's not from this bank, but I used to work at Citibank for 19 years, and I used to travel a lot. So there are clients who have meetings in our branches. I would organize meetings in our branches. And about an example, I was involved in such an expansion directly. I'd help a company and check all the contractors. There is this investment banking company even within PKO SA, so they help their clients in their foreign expansion. So this is something that we do, and we want to help companies. We've been supporting foreign expansion for years. Maybe we don't talk about it a lot, but we've been doing it in a very efficient way. So this is what I said at the beginning. We have many companies that are present abroad, and what's more, I can say that even when banks don't have branches abroad, such transactions are possible. You need a proper know-how. You can cooperate with funds which are active on different markets and so on. So those are joint actions. If you know the target, the client, you are able to evaluate the potential client. If our clients send some goods for some time, we see what is the cash flow and what the cooperation looks like. So there's nothing to be afraid of. We keep supporting companies in their development. So thank you.
What about Santander? Are you so active as well? Do you support entrepreneurs as a bank? Yes, definitely. So I like the information about Tetris because you can see it particularly in exports. You stopped really raising profit, chasing for profit, but responsibility for our customers, for our clients begins. And it's a story about real partnership. We want to understand what the client expects, which markets he or she wants to enter, and we want also to capture all the risks that they will have to face. We may also discuss here various products, as Madam President mentioned, credit facilities, financing liquidity to secure future investments, or those that finance investments, or export credits from KUKE, for example. You mentioned access to cash as one of the reasons for Polish companies being afraid. But yeah, it is available. But I just wanted to be brief. It's not just a discussion about cash, because lack of knowledge of the market, securing transactions. We know many such examples when the contractor went abroad, but money was lost. Hence, we have various revolving credits, letter of credits. This on order to ensure contractors' risk, tax risk, and generally country risk. So these are instruments that should be used. If we discuss various countries, we have to deal with foreign currency risks. It's a serious risk that you have to take into account, and banks secure clients against it. We know many histories where for many months business plans were drafted, and then they entered the market, but the situation was worse because of the foreign exchange changes. So from my perspective, what is important is a partnership approach. We know that we are unable to help everybody, but each advisor is able to help somebody. So we are guided by that philosophy, and we are able to help clients at each stage of the activities. As for SMEs, we have about 1,000 advisors for these SMEs, and we attach great importance to the qualifications of our staff. And during the meeting with clients, the advisors check all the risks, which markets the client wants to enter. They contact specialized departments, because we are a universal bank, so we operate in such a way that we can always contact teams specializing in foreign trade, or we can prepare tailor-made transactions. Because we operate on the global market, that means that we have local branches in those markets, and we have global teams that effect transactions on global markets and are able to help. And we also make available free of charge tools like Santander Trade, thanks to which we can check where our SME could collect the goods, or from which company, they could buy some products. And this is confirmed by, for example, Chinese banks and other financial institutions. Thanks to that, we are sure what the client does, and we can give some more information to the client whether the direction is right. All right, that's very interesting, such an active involvement of the bank. And we saw it in the presentation. Entrepreneurs are afraid of immediate crises. So we faced two large crises within several last years. That is the pandemic, and that was a crisis for the companies operating because supply chains broke, and before that we had to face financial crisis. And now I'd like to ask a representative of the World Bank which products the World Bank offers for Polish enterprises that want to enter on foreign markets.
Complementary to the Polish banking sector, in the sense that, of course, we are a development institution and we are present in more than 100 countries. So we like, together with PAIR and with PFR, to also bring that knowledge to Poland. We also believe that Poland has a big role to play for international economic development, and so this is also why we are very present here. The International Finance Corporation, can bring not only his local offices and its knowledge of these countries, but it does bring equity, which is capital, to invest alongside these enterprises. And unlike private equity funds, we are a minority investor. We do not seek any control. We think to bring even more than money, our name and our reputation, because this is what helps then companies with our capital go in other countries that are a bit more risky, where we know the partners, we know the economy on the ground, but also we are known. And so bringing IFC as a partnership is a way to really give a lot of confidence to these also governments that are receiving investment. I want to say that we are talking a lot about foreign trade and exports, and I was glad to hear from Millennium and Santander that there are good examples of Polish firms going abroad for investing. But overall, if you look at the outward investment out of Poland, it remains over the years between 0.25 and 1% of GDP, while if you compare to Spain, to Portugal, to Germany, of course, Austria, these countries are more in the 2.5%. So this is the next step for Poland, is to increase its investment abroad, and investing abroad is a way to build your international competitiveness, of course, for these companies. So we bring equity. We also bring through our multilateral investment guarantee agency, which is part of the World Bank Group, we bring this ability to protect Polish capital that goes abroad against political risks in the more difficult countries, or against breach of contract when they have long-term agreements with local partners, government partners. So this is also highly important. For the smaller firms, we really want, and here I want really to make a call for partnerships with the local banking sector, right? For a large Polish banks who has this kind of clients going abroad, banks will mostly interested in providing debt, but most of these clients, they need equity. And so we are very interested in providing equity to this client, in particular that in the context of our 2030 strategy, we will put much more emphasis on equity in our investment capital.
So here you are rather partners to the banks than to the small companies?
Yes, we are partners to the bank in general, providing the bank with additional risk-sharing products. For instance, don't want to go into too many details, but banks in Poland do not need more liquidity, but they may need more risk capital, more guarantees, more knowledge also in product development, for instance, when it comes to green financing or to financing the energy transition, which we can bring.
Thank you. Pani Prezes.
Thank you, Madam President. A Polish Agency for Enterprise Development has also many its own products and support lines. Please tell a few words about it. Well, as for products and instruments, there are lots of them. Of course, some of them are just first kind of obvious and non-obvious caveat. Let's not combine banking instruments and anything that could be proposed by the banking sector with the things to be done by public administration. Because sometimes here in Poland, we have a kind of mixture of that. And very often entrepreneurs treat public administration, which has funds available from the European Union, as the bank that gives funds free of charge, in fact. Of course, I'm talking a bit about the past because it's changing now, but we should remember about that, about this difference, and we must remind our clients that here we have two different philosophies of active. Polish Agency for Enterprise and Development does not work for profit. It has a completely different philosophy of its act, a completely different approach to risk. Of course, I don't have to present Polish and European bureaucracy. You know, it does exist, and I wouldn't claim that it will disappear now. This is something that the companies have to live with and cope with. Well, now let me discuss these instruments. Our role is to support entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is becoming more often is taking the form of internationalizations, and our activities are to make people grow and to give them tools to do that, and to help those companies where the financial sector cannot help them yet because they operate for profit. So if you need to finance training or missions to the fairs to take part, public administration may have. Fairs are important, very important, because it's where you meet foreign contractors, clients to whom you can sell something. We have also some kind of start platforms dealing with startups. They teach them presentation, sales, they test their products and ideas. They do kind of matchmaking for them, and these startups is something which is of crucial importance for us. We also have some other not typical instruments, but of great value to enterprises, like promotion of the brand of innovative SMEs, and we do promote activities related to their internationalization, and also grants. We help and finance the companies in the process of getting ready for applying for EU funds with foreign experts. We prepare so that it should be prepared for making analyses, business plans with a view to internationalization, so that to be able to enter a foreign market, so that they get ready before they can go to the bank and request commercial financing. We don't play a role as Polish Agency for Enterprise Development of the capital investor, of the equity investor, but here people from other development institutions do that. That is the Polish Development Fund, BGK, bank, and obviously entrepreneur doesn't have to know who does what. Our role is to guide him and to explain things to him, but that's how we perceive our role. So that to support our entrepreneurs during their first steps, before they can go to the banks, before they can refer to the investment fund. So that's great role of ours, which we perform, let's say, better or worse. But then a moment comes when the company is mature, is bigger, it has bigger investments, it gets to a higher level, yes. And EU funds also have a role to play here, a bit different role, usually complementary role, complementary to what is offered by banks and investment funds. Unfortunately, in our reality, these roles and levels get mixed. Well, that's how it is. But now we are starting to launch a new instrument. We announced it, in fact, a few weeks ago. It's a platform of strategic technologies for Europe, in English acronym STEP. We would be a grant instrument. We would support through that investment, and whether a particular investment could be supported would depend on whether it is part of internationalization, whether it is part of strategic independence of Europe, because we are building strategic independence of Europe. A lot is said about it. Draghi's report was issued here. China and other powers are developing so fast, and Europe in some areas is lagging behind. So this instrument is targeted at entrepreneurs who want to be part of supply chains, or who want to be manufacturers or services providers in such areas and technologies which are of strategic importance for Europe. So this is a kind of internationalization as such, so that Polish enterprises should be supported, so that they should be at the heart of European independence, strategic independence, and they should not operate. The reference market would not be the market here in Poland, but the European market. So we are trying to go a level higher. Please keep your fingers crossed for that. So do you also include here dual-use technologies? Because we have many companies in Poland who have perfect technologies who could be used in the defense sector. And now many startups are pivoting to become defense producers and converting from B2B or B2C. Yes, definitely so. Now the discussions are ongoing, and we are trying to create the path exclusively for dual-use technologies. These are just first modest steps, but there are ideas that we should have just path for the defense industry without saying that it is dual use. But so far, the paths and areas that are today supported by the STEP instrument is deep tech, and dual use is part of it, because deep tech is broadly understood here, like cybersecurity, satellite technologies, etc. So these are deep tech, advanced technologies. We have also biotechnology path, and this is also a sector which is naturally global. So this is another area. And the third area, resource saving area, clean technologies related to the development of our energy independence. So today we have these three paths, and in the future there will be more emphasis on dual use, or maybe even on just purely defense industry. All right, thank you so much. Now question to my director, Maciej Srebro. I was very much interested in what you said about your activity in Africa. And you said that kind of ceremonial things are important there. Is it really so? Or maybe you mean that kind of business, political arrangements are important also for entrepreneurs who want to sell products in these countries. We call these markets ceremonial markets. It's our jargon, but it means that these markets require not only good product, but they require that you have to get to know these people and you need political support. Without that, it's hard to operate there. So, for example, the representative of Poland with that gov.pl plug is easier to arrange meetings with business representatives of their counterparts. Yes, of course, yes. It does not pertain to the European Union market or the US market, but such markets like in Africa or Asia are quite, say, special with this respect. In Asia, you must invest in order to sell something. Of course, you also have some trade there. You can just sell products, but in order to be more kind of permanently present, you must invest there. Now, a few words about our activity. These are words addressed to SMEs. I think you know our activity because Polish agency, Polish Investment and Trade Agency supports exports. So we have 54 foreign branches located on all continents, and we have 3 tasks, major tasks. So first, to organize various exhibitions at fairs, promotion, and enterprise may choose the sector and the event. So there are over 320 such exhibitions. So you may say that every day there is an event and at which PAIH is present. And trade missions are also very important to show the Polish product, Polish brands, and they enjoy great interest. Recently we had a mission in Uzbekistan, quite exotic market, and 150 entrepreneurs went there. So you take these entrepreneurs so that they could show their products, yes. Plus that political aspect, because first meetings at the political level are held, then the missions are combined with the missions organized by the European Commission that thinks that 365 days within a year a European mission takes place, and sometimes we also are part of that mission because that is more important on those markets where our branches are not present. So what about these missions? Who are part of them? Let's say entrepreneurs who sell on these markets or who don't? Yeah, I encourage people to contact me, to contact the Department for Export Support, because maybe it's our fault that sometimes people don't know where we operate and how we can help. And this area of B2B is now developing very well. So companies come to us, I mean those who somehow started exporting, but not too much, but they want to develop on different markets, and I think we effectively help them in that, because we create a kind of systemic path of support for them. It's direct support for the company that wants to open a production facility in a particular country, wants to have contact with local water pipelines, on government stakeholders, etc. So, and we are quite effective here. And these companies really benefit from that. We also are being held accountable for that. It's not so that we just organize meetings. Of course, in the model approach, PAIH is an advisory organization. We do not offer financing, although I will discuss financing in a moment. We, in fact, provide advisory services, but we are being held accountable for that. The number of export contracts, which is the outcome of our activity, is a certain KPI, yes, KPI, that we have to show. And finally, let me tell you that recently, this week even, we have taken the decision to open the office in the Silicon Valley in the US because we see a need to do so there because, everybody wants to be there, everybody's thinking about it. It's the biggest dream of every startup. Yeah, but there are many funds that operate there are also present in Poland. We are aware of that.
So we know what are the expectations of those entrepreneurs. They want to be there. They want to get to know this different modus operandi of the business because they know the system which relies on financing and got from the banking sector. So there it's different. So we are trying to create this platform for them. We will have our branch there from August or from September. There's huge interest for companies to come there, and the assumption is that our office will be open to everyone, can leave your luggage there and so on, have meetings there and so on. It's good news because there are some startups that have a place only in a garage. They can meet only in a garage. Yes, we located our office in an already existing ecosystem where other institutions are located. But there are also other support systems there, for example, that allow to prepare a project or a presentation. This is the main barrier, is that Polish companies may have something interesting, but they don't know how to prepare it. So there is this idea that we had. I'm aware that we are not well identified by Polish entrepreneurs, but I'd encourage them to contact us. We are at their disposal. We define our mission as serving the whole entrepreneurship, especially SMEs in Poland. Just a couple of minutes left. Thank you. Well, just briefly, in a couple of words, please encourage Polish companies, how to convince those companies to break those barriers and start going abroad, how to encourage them. I'll start from director, then we'll finish by Madam President. I represent the group of the European Investment Bank, so I'd encourage them to get in touch with us because we are present in many foreign markets outside of EU, the EU. Outside of the EU, we have 10% of our annual activity, 8 billion euros of financing. So our presence on a foreign market, Ari was already talking about it, because this is this element of excellence of a given project. So we have such a function and we fulfill such a role, play such a role. So apart from that, we give also have advisory services. We also are trying to reorient our services within EIB Global, is that not only the receiving country where the investment is done gets some advantages in terms of infrastructure related to this project, but also that EU enterprises get some support thanks to our financing. So that is a win-win situation. We also concentrate on something that is really important from the SME sector, is to finance enterprises on the EU market. As a rule, we finance big entrepreneurs for projects that go beyond 50 million euros, but we give also financing to SMEs, leasing companies, thanks to banks, and we invest in innovative entities through the European Investment Fund. And here we will create future technological champions through venture capital and private equity. And for the SMEs, we work with them mainly through the financial sector. We have guarantees. The risk is split, the financing is split. So thanks to that, thanks to financial institutions and development institutions, there will be a greater opportunity for internationalization. So your advice is come see the investment bank. I do hope that the director will say something else. No, just briefly. We speak all the languages that someone needs. In Bulgaria, we speak Bulgarian. In the Netherlands, we speak their language, Dutch. So please don't hesitate to consult us. We have a broad offer. The foreign expansion, what it gives satisfaction, but it's also a huge adventure. One of the main aspects to be stressed for entrepreneurs is that they have such adventures. So yes, this is part of their lives, entrepreneurs' lives, to have to keep having adventures, and this is positive. Yeah, we are talking only about positive adventures. What I'd say is that my dream is that our SMEs start what they've started here in Poland. They continue with what they are having here. So SMEs, it's account for 50% of the national GDP. So great work. And let's keep it like that, and let's expand, let's join our efforts. This is what we are doing, but we need to inform clients about it. We have the European Investment Bank. We can release billions of zlotys to finance SMEs. There is great information from the Małych agency where there are no local bank branches. So this is how it should be done. Support entrepreneurship thanks to our agencies. This is good news for entrepreneurs. They need to check what is available and see what should be done, because unfortunately, if there are doubts, if there is uncertainty, we may kill good businesses, and it's not something good. So
barriers. I mean, I call it governance challenge, but I think at the end of the day, for any Polish firm, it's intimidating to go to a new market for the first time. The way to address that is partnerships. Coming from outside and as a foreigner in Poland, and I know many of my colleagues and foreigners, we are all impressed by the quality of the deliverables of the Polish economy. I mean, the quality of the construction work, the quality of the innovation ecosystem. We are supporting also very interesting Polish innovators that have a global reach through their products. We are impressed by the quality of the Polish workers. Sometimes it's a problem of self-confidence. I think, and to address that, they need to look for partnerships. No need to go by yourself. You can go to any market, identify partners that you can collaborate with, be more open with bringing maybe external people in our board, in your board, maybe bringing external capital. And that is a necessary step anyway, because as we have seen from the presentation from the Polish Banking Association, Poland is at a stage where it's going to reach a plateau if it doesn't build that international competitiveness.
Thank you. So look for good partners, yeah? Pani Prezes.
Ja to tak.
President, yes. When looking at the presentation that we saw before, I'm still optimistic. Well, as it was already said before, we are having a very dynamic startup environment in deep tech, in technologies, and so on. We have a very well-functioning and well-prepared financial sector, banking sector. We also have public funds, EU and national funds, and we have big needs and challenges coming from the defense sector. Those are infrastructural challenges. We will build our new airport and nuclear power plants. So this demand will really help our entrepreneurs grow. So we have all the potential which is needed. I'm optimistic. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank our panelists. And from my side, I would like to encourage you to read my company, Polska. There are stories of entrepreneurs there. Maybe they are of inspiration. Maybe you will be on the cover of this review. We like telling good stories, entrepreneurs' stories, and thank you for your participation. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo.
Thank you. As we expected, this was a very interesting panel, and we may say that unfortunately the last one and the last panel during this meeting of the European Forum of MSMEs. Just a couple of minutes to our panelists for last exchange of opinions, and now I'd like to ask you to slowly take your seats, and the time has come to do something sad, which is to say goodbye. But it's always like this. The conference is coming to an end. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats, and I would like to invite on stage. And here there is going to be a the wrap-up of our conference. So I would like to invite Marek Radzikowski, Chairman of the Council of the Polish Bank Association for Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. So the floor is yours. Last applaud for the last time, and Mr. Włodzimierz Kiciński, Vice President of the Polish Bank Association, and Arkadiusz Lewicki, Director of the National Contact Point for Financial Instruments of the European Union Programs. Director, the floor is yours. Gentlemen, I give you the floor. So thank you very much. It's a sad moment after those 2 days of discussions. So I would like to thank you warmly, thank all our great panelists and participants. And they are not less exceptional because all the discussion which are informal were really great. So I'd like to thank the organizers of this event, which is the Polish Banks Association and the management for the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, and the national contact point. It's not a secret that the council that I represent has human resources on its own, so they were fully responsible. So the contact point and the Polish Banks Association, they were responsible for organizing this. I would like to thank warmly the organizers who were working hard for this event to happen. And this is Magda Wróblewska, Marek Gość, and Marek Ullman, Marta Gość, Marek Ullman, Oliwia Zyskowska. You are all here present in this room, so please stand up and a round of applause. So thank you very much, and the person that you know very well, without whom it wouldn't be possible to organize it, the Director of National Contact Point, Arkadiusz Lewicki. Arek, thank you very much. There was a hotline concerning this event for the last 2 days, and you couldn't even sleep. It's been a huge effort. You could see it all, and you had the opportunity to look at it closely. So I opened the forum together with Mr. Białek, and I opened it by showing you my personal reflection or experience, and I will finish also with my personal experience. When I opened the forum at 10 o'clock yesterday, I said that I was in a different time zone because I was coming from Argentina, and there it was 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. So I must admit that during those 2 days I still have jet lag. I'm still in that time zone because the agenda was ambitious. Arek, you created this agenda. Thank you very much for that. And I must say that I've seen many interesting ideas, a lot of passion, and exchange of experience. So all this that you could share with all the people here with me, this gave me so much energy that I didn't hear this. I didn't feel the jet lag. So on behalf of myself, I would like to thank you for that because I could feel this passion here among all of us. Thank you very much. See you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Polish Banks Association, let me thank the Council of Micro, Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises and Marek Radzikowski, the chairman of the council. It's always a pleasure to be a guest here and be invited by the chairman of this council and the representative of the biggest bank in Poland. We are grateful to all the Polish banks for their participation. We are talking about commercial banks, to cooperative banks, which are well represented, and all the organizations that took part in organizing this event. As Mr. Radzikowski got back from Argentina, we would like to ensure you that we don't want to build a second Argentina here. They have let them have their own problems, but we would like to follow the example of the President Lech Wałęsa. So we would like to do everything so that the GDP per capita is in the next month exceeds the parity of the purchasing power. So this is like in Japan. This should be like in Japan. This is the example to follow. So Poland has its own challenges. We are growing fast. As the president of PARP said, we are on the one hand very optimistic, but on the other hand we need to be aware of all the challenges that we need to face, especially the ones which should strengthen competitiveness and the strength of Polish micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. I do hope that we've managed to show you all the aspects related to this competitive race in international markets. So I would like to assure you that we will follow this path. On the one hand, we'll identify strengths and keep talking about challenges. It's really easy to have only positive results and talk about them, but what is harder is to have a bigger efficiency in all dimensions. But we can afford it. We as Poland can afford it, and I do assure you that the Polish Bank Association never sleeps. Ladies and gentlemen,
big one can do more. So that's why we, as the national contact point, are always trying to be connected to the big one. So in our association, we have 42 banks, all solid banks that do something with small business, big business, and enterprises are part of that council. So when we are in that project, we are part of that project like PARP, like the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, because I can see still colleagues from the ministry. And when we get together like that, we can convey more. Throughout all these days, 100 days, we had over 100 meetings, and we would have 15 billion for preferential financing from InvestEU, not only from that. And later on, after the meeting, we would launch a retransmission of this event, and entrepreneurs who could not attend would be able to see that. I'd like to thank everybody for our joint work. And I think today representatives of chambers of commerce and entrepreneurs organizations said that we need to get more information about financing foreign expansion, or including participation of commercial sector. So we have a new goal here. So after this event, such information and instruments should be formed together with commercial and cooperative banks, of course, because, for example, agri-food sector accounts for 15% of this success in Polish exports. So the national point will continue to support you. We are available to you, to banks and financial institutions, because not only banks are eligible for products, and for entrepreneurs, who are the most important ones, because we created it all for them. Thank you once again. I'd like to thank my staff with whom we cooperated. I'd like to thank Łukasz, Bogusz, Ola, Zofia, their teams, but they also the team from Center of Banking Law, who has been with us, also Mr. Pawlonka, who supported us. I'm sorry if I have forgotten someone, but I really have a high opinion of you.
No dobrze, szanowni państwo.
Right, so ladies and gentlemen, I would also thank some people. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank for a mobile, but someone just, I'm kidding, someone left it, so please take it. I'd like now seriously to thank all our partners and friends, without whom the meeting would not have been held. So strategic honorary partner was the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, honorary partners Ministry of Finance, European Commission, Ombudsman for SMEs, Chancellor of Prime Minister for Cooperation with Ukraine, the general partner was PKO Bank Polski, the public partner Strategic Bank Gospodarstwa Krajowego, technological partner ENG SA, and the remaining partners Cashless Poland Foundation, Santander, Krajowa Izba Rozliczenia, PNB Paribas Polska, Bank Ochrony Środowiska, Agency for Enterprise Development, Polish Agency for Enterprise Development, PFR Investment Fund, Polish Agency for Trade Investment, Group, Big SA, Cook SA, European Investment Bank, European Investment Fund, Enterprise Europe Network, and sectoral partners who are also important: National Chamber of Commerce, Polish Council of Business, Business Center Club, employees of RP, Federation of Polish Enterprise, Craftsmen Association, Polish Leasing Association, National Association for Guarantee Funds, Polish Chamber for Exporters and Importers and Cooperation, Polish Ukrainian Commerce, Polish Kazakhstan, and Polish Indian Chamber of Commerce. And the media patrons were Polish Press Agency, My Company Polski, Monthly Bank, and Portal Bank.pl. Thank you so much for the meeting in 2025, and I'd like to thank the organizers. I'm sure that next year we will meet again, and these debates would be as fruitful as this one, although the economic reality would be different and hopefully better for our entrepreneurs and SMEs. And now I'd like to invite you for lunch. Thank you. And please